Self-editing your novel at the story level is a very important step of the process before we send off our work to an editor. And it's also a very daunting task, and it can be very confusing for a lot of people. So today I want to talk to you about Fictionary StoryTeller software, which is an online software that's meant to help authors with their self-editing before it gets sent off to an editor. To learn more about this software and how it can work for you, keep watching. In this episode of The Mythic Quill, I want to talk to you a little bit about an author tool that I've been using for a while and I've been very excited about. I remember the first time I ever heard about it, it was right after I was studying the story grid and learning how to do an analysis of my scenes and my story and having to track all the scenes. I was checking all the scenes at that time in an Excel word sheet. And then, of course, we had to draw story arcs ourselves. So when I came across this software, I realized how well it fit with what I was learning in StoryGrid and how it made tracking your story, it makes that process so much easier, and it helps you track everything so you can look at a glance afterwards to see where your story is working and where you might need some more work. So I'm just going to go on an overview today, and then in a future lesson, I'm going to go into one of the scenes and show you how editing a scene works. But for now, I'm just going to give you a brief overview. It's at fictionary.co. And there is a free 14-day trial. Okay, so I'm just going to log in really quick here. So when you first log into Fictionary, it will open up on this page. So here we have visualize your manuscript, evaluate your scenes, and Fictionary complete edit. Up above, we have overview, visualize, and evaluate. So down here in visualize your manuscript, we have story arc, word count per scene, and scenes per character. And there is a little video to talk to you about how to use this function when you're doing your self-editing. Under evaluate your scenes, we have character, plot, and setting. So this software helps you to analyze your story using 38 story elements. And those elements are all related to character, plot, and setting, which, as you know, are essential for any fiction story to drive your story forward. And again, under that, we have a video to show you how to use this function in the software. Then we have Fictionary Edit Complete. So when your Fictionary edit is complete, you can export your manuscript to Word. You can export just the scene notes, or you can re-import your manuscript. So say, for example, you have exported it, and then you've done maybe some copy editing or some major changes. You can then go ahead and re-import it later. Under the overview at the top, under the overview tab, we have a guide or how-to help you with any of your questions that you have. We have cast of characters, we have the reading room, and we have my bookshelf. So you can import more than one book at a time. I think it allows up to 3. And then you can go in here and select which book you want to work on. Under Visualize, we have Manuscript Insights, Character Insights, Plot Insights, and Setting Insights. And then Evaluate will take you straight into, I'm just going to go there for a second to show you. We'll take you straight into your book, into the scenes and chapters of your book, so you can start editing. And as you can see over here, we have Character, Plot, Setting, and Notes. If before you upload your manuscript, you have it divided with chapters and scenes. So for example, if you use a chapter heading or use heading 1 for your chapters and then maybe a hashtag for your scene breaks, then when you import your manuscript, it will actually automatically separate your book into scenes and chapters for you. So just like what we just saw here on the evaluate page. So when I uploaded my book, I had my chapters as heading 1. I had hashtags to separate the scenes. And so when the book ended up here in StoryTeller, it was all broken down for me already in chapters and scenes. If you forget to do that, if you forget to do it properly, it's fine. You can go back to the main page and you can go ahead and format that so your scenes and chapters are noted, and then you can go re-import manuscript and upload it again. Okay, so I want to just look here. One of the greatest things about this software that I found was how it draws a story arc for you. So I mentioned earlier about using StoryGrid, which I love. It taught me a lot about storytelling and how to edit stories. But the hardest thing was noting all of the different things in an Excel spreadsheet and then trying to map your arc yourself. With StoryTeller, as soon as you upload your book, it has like AI that looks for certain things in your scenes, and it will automatically map your arc for you. Because it is AI and because it uses certain mathematical functions to try to figure out which your main scenes are, you will need to go in and check what the recommended scene is and what your scene was, and make sure it's selected the right one. Now, usually it's either right on or it's pretty close. You can see my arc is off a little bit here, but it's okay. I think you have like a 10 to 15% kind of wiggle room there. So this is not too bad. If I go to overview and go to my bookshelf, I have another book on here that I've been working on that has an even better story arc. So this is another one of my books. And again, if I go to story arc on this one, I've been working on this one for a while. So my story arc is even a little bit better here. Still not right on as a suggested one, but this is actually really close. If it was like way off, then you know you have to fix something. Something like this, or even the one in the other arc I showed you, that is acceptable deviations, right? So let's go back to the main page again. Then we have word count per scene. It's important because of a couple of things. First of all, it affects the pacing of your book. So if you want your book to be fast paced, you're going to want to have more shorter scenes. If there are sequel scenes where there's a lot of introspection and talking, those will probably be longer. But it's very good to vary that to adjust the pacing in your scenes and to make sure that your readers don't get bored. The other thing about word count per scene is that your 5 essential scenes, your inciting incident, plot point 1, your middle plot point 2, and your climax all should be the ones that have longer word counts. So this should be the most impactful, the longest scenes in your book. So back to the main page again. And then we have scenes per character. This is especially important, I think, for your viewpoint characters. So I have 3 viewpoint characters in this book. I have a fair number of characters. I have a lot of characters in this book. It's an epic fantasy, so that's kind of to be expected. I have 3 viewpoint characters, and you can tell by looking here which one is the protagonist. So my protagonist is this character. Then we have the secondary character slash like the sidekick slash love interest. And then we have another of their companions, which ends up kind of being a foil for the main character. So that's how many scenes you have per character. Then we have characters per scene. So how many characters are in each scene. And then we have point of view characters. So this is my 3 point of view characters here. And it shows you, I have 2 things here going on. Right here, we have name, percentage, and the number of scenes where they're the point of view character. So as we can see, this character is definitely my protagonist. I've definitely chosen the right protagonist because this character is the point of view character in 60% of the scenes. And here we can see the balance. So my main character and my protagonist has 60% of the scenes. The secondary character slash love interest has 30%. And then we kind of have the sidekick or foil character who's like 10%. And we can look at it in a bar graph as well. Then we have the character arc for our main character, because our character needs to go through change. So just like we saw for the story, we saw the story arc, and then we have the character arc. So there should be no flat lines here. So there needs to be things that affect them positively and things that affect them negatively. Okay, so your character should never be flat. If there's scenes that are flat, you know you need to adjust something. Back to the main page again. Under evaluate your scenes, we have character, plot, and setting. So this is when we get into the book and we're looking at our scenes. So let's take a look at character. In a future video, I'm actually going to show you how to go through scenes using these things. But for now, I'm just going to give you an overview of what kinds of things they look at. Now, here we have character, plot, setting, and notes. So here we have our binder. We're seeing all of our chapters and scenes. I've named all the scenes, and naming the scenes is really good for helping you figure out, do you have a focus scene goal? And then we have our book here, that like the scenes that we're reading. And then over here, we have character, plot, setting, and notes. And this is our key elements in our book, 38 story elements. Now we can go advanced mode and see the whole 38 elements for character, plot, setting, or we can go to the basic mode and see just the basics for character, plot, and setting. So if you're new at using the software or new at self-editing, you might want to start with the basic mode and then work up to the advanced mode later. Then we have our complete edit. Now, what I like to do is I like to edit in Fictionary, then I will export my manuscript and then I'll send it off to beta readers. When you export your manuscript to Word, you actually keep a copy in your StoryTeller account. So I don't need to do anything. So the beta reader sends me back the Word document with the notes attached and whatnot. Then I just kind of have that open on one screen or one side of the screen. I actually have two screens, but I'll either have it open on one side of the screen or on the other screen. And I'll have my manuscript open in StoryTeller and on the evaluate page, and I will go through the notes that the beta readers have left for me, and I will see, is that something I want to incorporate or not? How's it going to affect my story? And if it's something I want to change, I can make those changes right in here. And then afterwards, after I've made those changes, I will go through the story elements again to see if I've done better this time around, or is there anything I can change here? And of course, the goal is to make things better, not to make them worse, right? If you want to just export scene notes, those are the things you need to work on. So as you're going through stuff, make a note for yourself of things you want to work on. And I'll talk about that in the next video when I go into a scene and edit the scene so you can see how that works. But you can just export scene notes, and that will just kind of give you an overview of the things you need to work on. So in the overview, we also have cast of characters. One thing you'll need to check once you've uploaded your manuscript, so you check your story arc, check your main plot points, and make sure that the story arc is correct. Then you're going to check your cast of characters, because there may be people who got left out. If you're like, for me, fantasy, I'm using names that are not usual. So I've had to kind of go in and fix those. Sometimes it will, if you use full name or nickname or shortened version of their name, it might come up separately. So you need to kind of merge them. Sometimes it'll pick up on words that are not actually names. So it depends on what it is. And then if that's the case, you just click it and then click delete character. If you wanted to click who your protagonist is, I haven't done that, but I could. Then you just click on who the protagonist is. If it's a single point of view story, you can click to set who your single point of view character is. And you can also view characters for a scene. Then when you're sure that your cast of characters is correct, and you know what, I say when you're sure, but when you're fairly certain, then you can click save and then go into editing your book. And you can change it numerous times throughout. So if you decide to add a character, or if you decide to merge characters or delete characters, you can do that. In the reading room, we get to look at a number of scenes at once. So we see 1, 2, 3. We see like chapter by chapter here. We have chapter 1, right? We get to look at the scenes. I actually very rarely use this function, but one thing it's good for is you can use a word cloud. If you're kind of having trouble trying to figure out what your scene goal is, for example, you can look in there, take a look at the words that come up more often, and that might help you figure out what your scene goal is. And then again, under the overview section, the last thing we have under overview is my bookshelf. And it says here you can create up to 3 projects. So I have 3 in here now. I could delete one if I wanted to add another one. And if I had space, I could import another manuscript. And in beta testing now, they have writing a novel right in the software. So if you're used to using something like Scrivener or writing directly into a Word document, you can actually now start writing directly in StoryTeller. And actually, Fictionary, I've been working with these guys for a while, and they are really good at taking authors' suggestions and seeing what they can incorporate and how they can work with authors that way. Under the Visualize tab, again, we have our story arc. This is our manuscript insights. We have story arc, word count per scene, scenes per chapter, story map. So in the story map, you get to select any or all of those 38 elements. If you want to look at all the elements, you say view full story map here. Right now it's off. If I want to look at all of the elements, I would click on. And then I'll see all of the elements for all of the scenes. So here we have all of our scenes. And we have all of our elements. If you find that a bit overwhelming, you can look at certain things at a time. So I'll turn that off, and then I can select the things that I want to look at. So select story map elements, and then you can check your progress. So this one I've finished already. Then under visualize, again, we have character insights. So this is characters per scene, which I showed earlier, scenes per character, which I've shown earlier, point of view characters and character arcs. So we've looked at this one a little bit earlier. Then we have our plot insights. So that is, what is the purpose of our scene and what's the details of that? So purpose of scene details, we have purpose of scene usage, and then we have the balance, purpose of scene balances. So we have character development, move story forward, character introduction, intensify conflict, build suspense, establish mood, establish setting, climax, plot point 1, middle, plot point 2, middle plot point 1, inciting incident, and then not confirmed to have 0, which is good. You want to have 0. And all of your 5 main scenes, there should be only one of them, so that's right on. But you kind of want to have a bit of variety here. And then we have our scene opening types. So it can open with action, it can open with description, it can open with thoughts or dialogue. Again, we want to try to have a variety. Scene closing types, same thing. We have dialogue, thought, action, and description again. And then we have setting insights. So we have setting elements per scene. In the next video, I'm actually going to go to evaluate. We'll look at one of my scenes that I haven't done yet, and I will walk you through the character plot setting and how we would actually apply that here and how we would use our notes. I'll leave the website address again in the description down below. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. There is a free trial, so I think it's 14 days. So you can go and check out StoryTeller for yourself if you want to. But I am also a Fictionary certified story coach editor. So if you have any specific questions about any of this stuff, leave your questions for me in the comments below and I will answer your questions. There's also a really great Fictionary community that any authors or editors can join. You don't have to be a story coach client or a StoryTeller client to join the Fictionary community. It's open for any authors and editors. There's a section there where you can ask an editor anything. So you can either ask me questions below this video or you can check out the Fictionary community. I will leave the address for that down below as well. And I did a brief video before of an overview of the Fictionary community. I'll probably do another one down the road. So in my next video, I'm actually going to go to evaluate a scene and kind of just show you how each of those elements work as you're evaluating. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.